All right, let's do this.
I'ma need safety. Tell her I can't snake me. Ray gun off safety. My girl so tasty. Tell her it's your.
Yeah, well, my name is Voltaire Lepe. Born and raised in San Diego. I'm very proud of that because not a lot of people are born and raised here. 1983, when I was born, I grew up in a really tough neighborhood, tough part of San Diego, Logan Heights area, Sherman Heights area, 25th and Imperial. And, back then it was just, it was a tough place to grow up in for sure, just walking to a grocery store, walking to school. Every time you walked outside your house, you knew that there's some unknown out there, so, when I was young, 5 years old, I lived in an apartment complex with a bunch of buddies, well, a bunch of kids. They're all older than me for the most part. So at a young age, I started kind of hanging out with them, going out at night, late night, midnight, 11 p.m. The area that I grew up in, 25th and Imperial, is one of the busiest intersections, one of the most active intersections in San Diego. One LA Times article just kind of described it as the murder capital of San Diego. There was a lot of homicides, a lot of drugs. Growing up, it was just like that. I thought it was normal. I didn't think the rest of San Diego was any different. I thought everybody walked outside and was kind of just scared to walk down this street. That's just what it was. At the same time, there was some excitement too, because I used to get in a lot of trouble. It was fun sometimes just because you could really get into a lot of activities you probably shouldn't be doing. And as a kid, it's exciting, and you really don't fully know the consequences of your actions or, who you're hanging out with, who you're involved with. But at the same time, my family, made a really, they made an effort to just make sure that, I was doing good. Well, let me tell you about Young Voltaire. Young Voltaire was a lot of fun. If I could describe myself back then, I was very outgoing. I was an extrovert. I had a lot of fun. I had a blast. I had like a bunch of friends as a kid. We would always get in fights. I don't know why we would get in fights. After school, we would walk down the street. We would break house windows. It's embarrassing to say, but we would just literally grab rocks, just okay, I'm gonna break that window over there. Bam, break the window, run home. And we did a lot of things, fireworks that were illegal. I think there still are. Back then they're illegal, but we do a lot of fireworks. We do a lot of BB guns. We do a lot of just get in trouble, whichever way we can. I think the first time that I actually got stopped by the police, I was probably 8 years old. I broke a car window and they came to question me, and so that's the type of stuff that Young Voltaire was getting into. And it was just I want to say it was a fun time, but at the same time it was, that's just the neighborhood. That's just what happened. What I was doing had no comparison to what other people were doing. And it was just small time stuff. So that was kind of my upbringing. Young Voltaire's definition of fun was definitely just getting into trouble. If I could have someone chasing me, if I could have someone looking for me, upset with me, to me it was fun. It was almost okay, let me go do this, get in trouble, and then, hide and go seek type of thing. It was at the same time, from early on, I was a little entrepreneur, right? So I would go down to the street, to the liquor store, buy some cigarettes, as a 9-year-old, and resell them at school for a profit, in singles. So, I was, at the same time, I knew what I was doing wasn't the right thing to do. I knew there was money in it. I knew that I could potentially get in trouble. It's just a little adrenaline, that you feel through your body. And that was how you feel. Having that adrenaline go through your body is living. You feel the blood rushing through your veins. You feel that adrenaline pumping, and that's really, what I was into. I remember as a young kid, my grandpa was just everything to me. You know, he really dedicated his life to me, to my siblings, and did the right thing always. That's what I remember of him. He, my grandpa was head of household, so he made sure that he laid down the rules. There was no deviating from the rules. Yeah, I would get in trouble a lot, and he was always there to tell me, you know, what the right thing to do was. One thing that my grandpa wanted to instill in me as a young kid is discipline, right? He taught me that when you start something, you finish it, whether you like it or not. I did karate for 5.5 years and I hated it. But he said, no, you have to finish it until you stop it. And I hated it because I used to get beat up. You know, I used to go into karate class. I was the only kid, a bunch of grown men, a bunch of grown women, and they used to take out their anger on me. You know, I didn't know why. Now I know, because they had the 9 to 5. They would go, shitty day, and they're just like, all right, let me fuck up the little kid, you know. And I went that through many years, but he knew that I needed to learn discipline. I needed to finish a project if I started it. So that was just one lesson that he gave me, but there's so many, man. It's crazy. As a young kid, the environment was really tough, man. I've seen everything there is to see under the sun. I've seen people die in many different ways. I've seen people use drugs, all kinds of drugs. I've seen people get beat up, fight, talk shit. I mean, everything there is to see, I think I've seen it all as a young kid. And growing up, you know, the person I looked up to a lot was my uncle, man. He was like my dog, you know. He was, you know, I was in kindergarten. He would take me out of class almost every day because he needed gas money. So when I was a kid, young kid, I thought he was like just a bum. I would tell him too, like, hey, man, you're going to be a bum when you grow up. Like taking me out of school to go joyriding with him and his friends. You know, he was probably like 20 years old and I was in kindergarten, and he would just take me out of class, take me home. I used to be really good at saving up money. So I had this piggy bank. Nobody knew where it was at. And he would need gas money. Back then it was like $3, $5 at the most. And, you know, we would pump some gas, go cruising the rest of the day. And over the years, you know, he went from being just like a nuisance that always gets into trouble. And, you know, he taught me a lot, you know, how to deal with people in the hood. You know, I've seen him do a lot of stuff and just really, you know, back then, check people, protect his family, you know, protect all of us, did what he had to do. And as he evolved, he became like a businessman, and he got into real estate. And when he got into real estate, I might have been like 10 years old. This is like early 90s. And I remember he was talking about real estate. I didn't know what real estate was. I was a young kid, you know, and he broke it down to me. He says, well, I sell houses. And I'm like, how the heck do you sell houses? And I just remember him coming home and putting a big stack of money and just throwing it on his dresser. And I remember just like looking at the money, you know, counting the money. And I was like, wow, this is real estate. This is crazy. So as a young kid, I would go with him to open houses. I would go with him to his office, just sleep there, you know, because he would work all night. And he was like one of my best friends, you know, and we rode everywhere together. And then I got to learn real estate. I knew what he did, and I knew there was money in it. One day, my uncle came home, and from work, he was in a suit. Never seen him in a suit. I always saw him just sleeping on the couch, you know. So a 21-year-old kid back then, he came home, and I was like 10 years old, and he just took out a big stack of money, put it on his dresser. And he says, I got paid today. I sold the house. And I remember just looking at this money, and I was like, what in the heck? Like, this is crazy. I've never seen that type of money. Like, the most I've ever seen him with was like $5. You know, and this is like early 90s, so that's like $5. Doesn't get you far, but, you know, it'll get you fed and maybe some gas. And for him to come in with a stack of money, it was just mind-blowing. And I remember he said, let's go eat. Went to the first restaurant I've ever been to, small little seafood spot right down the street, El Golosito. And we got some Mexican seafood. And I remember just eating, thinking like, wow, I ain't got to eat my grandpa's like shitty ass cooking. And ever since then, I kind of associated, having money with being able to live a better life. And he would sell a house. Every time he would sell a house, he would come home, he would just have cash and he would just put it on the dresser. And I remember just going through his cash. Sometimes I would take some, go across the street, buy some candy, shit like that. But that's kind of how the whole relationship between living in the hood and living a little bit better started to come about. And I started to realize that if you have money, you could do more things than usual as a young kid. Growing up, I realized that my situation wasn't normal, where I grew up, how I grew up. And it was because I watched Saved by the Bell, believe it or not. I watched Saved by the Bell and I saw, wow, they have like bedrooms, their own bedrooms, and they have beds. At this point, up to 12 years old, I was sleeping on the floor. I never had a bed until I was about 12. And watching Saved by the Bell, I was like, hold up, how come they're not looking out behind their shoulder, watching their back every time they walk outside their house? And in school, it's like super cool. And that's when I realized that actually life was different outside of living in the hood. One day, my uncle's girlfriend, she invited me to her house, right? And it was like a pool party or something. I went to her house and she had a pool in the back. And it was a house in Bonita. And I was like, these people are rich, right? And that Monday at school, I go to school, and I tell all my friends about it. I'm like, man, I went to this mansion over the weekend, had a pool in the back. And looking back, it wasn't a mansion, but I didn't even have a clue stuff like that existed. So I started to realize that there's better stuff, different neighborhoods outside of Logan Heights and Sherman Heights. And I started to equate that, hey, you need money. And how do you get money? Well, you sell houses, because I see my uncle with the stacks. So as a young kid, I knew that that's what I wanted. Very early on, I thought I wanted to be a football player, a baseball player, NBA player, in order to get out the hood, get my mom a house, and all that. And I believed I was going to do that. But once I got older and I realized that the skills weren't there in order to do that, I was like, okay, real estate's the meal ticket. I saw my uncle get married, move out the hood, and to a really nice neighborhood. And I go, okay, I have to really focus on real estate, and that'll get me out of the hood. So what I did next is I started a real estate internship with my uncle. I was taking a class at San Diego High. The class required that I do an internship at a company, any company. And at first it was going to be a law office. And once my uncle found out, he was like, no, come work for me. And that's when I started real estate. So I started as an assistant for my uncle, just doing assistant type work, paperwork type stuff, cleaning cars, picking up food, going with him on appointments, just learning the game. So when I started my internship, I started realizing that they're making crazy amount of money. Realtors, lenders. I mean, I'm talking about Ferraris. I'm talking about like wads of cash in drawers. And I started thinking, man, this is the way out. I'm still living in a neighborhood where you're walking outside and you're seeing people with guns, people with drugs. And all I have in my head is I need to get out. So from that point in time, I knew I was going to be in real estate 100% because, again, that's money. Money lets you do things. It gives you options. And one option that I wanted to take was move out of the neighborhood. So I'm in the office, and the first thing I noticed is that everyone's wearing suit and ties. My uncle laced me up. We went to Men's Fashion Depot. He picked out a couple of suits, some shirts, some ties, some shoes. And I'm thinking I show up to the office, I think I'm fresh, right? Until someone points out that I'm supposed to take out these little cardboard things outside of the collars and stuff. So I'm still wearing cardboards. I got like some pins on my shirt, They're like, no, you're supposed to have the pins, the little collars. Of course, I didn't iron my shit. So like I'm walking with like squared, look like squared, But to me, that's the freshest I ever looked. So I'm in the office. I'm like, wow, everyone's dressed really nice. But then, the people hooked me up because they know me since I was a little kid. So everyone's like really cool with me. they're like, no, Voltaire, you gotta take these things out. Start taking, they started like redoing my tie, and I was really grateful for them. So the first thing I noticed about them was that like they really care. They care about me, about each other. It wasn't like a dog mentality. Everyone was like super chill. They put me up on game. They show me how to do certain things, from as little as this is how you use the fax machine to, this is how you write up an offer. So my experience in real estate was nothing but love from the very beginning. Everyone showed me a lot of love. Everybody was super cool with me. Wearing the suit, what it meant to me was, it meant I made it, even though I didn't have no money. When I first put on my outfit, leaving the crib, my grandpa was so proud of me. My grandpa was happy, like, wow, you look so good, and giving me all these compliments. And even though I didn't have no money, I felt I made it already, and it made me feel like, hey, I already made it out the hood, even though I was still living in it. Just being able to walk around in a suit, the suit represented something better for me. I remember my grandpa passing away, and it was a really tough time for me. I took care of him the last 6 months of his life. And once he passed away, I kind of started drifting off. I was in real estate at the time. I stopped working really and going into the office and things of that nature. And I started just hanging out with a bunch of friends, drinking, smoking, probably doing some things I shouldn't be doing. And the moment that I knew I had to move out was I went to the liquor store to buy some alcohol, and a gang member approached me and tried to rob me, put a gun, pointed it towards me. And at that point, after I figured out that situation, got out of that specific moment, I knew I went back home and I was like, I have to just get out. It's time to move out. Luckily for me, my uncle welcomed me with open arms and, moved out the hood finally. And at that point, that's when I really just started grinding, started working really hard to achieve something that, I had my eyes on, but it didn't really become real until after I moved out the hood. That's when I said, okay, cool, there's no excuses now. I just got to work hard and get it done. My first night in Bonita, I'm out the hood, just moved there. And believe it or not, I was terrified. Why? Because I was in bed. It was so quiet. I didn't hear nothing. Like, I was like, I'm not used to just silence. I thought somebody was going to break in, slit my throat. Like, I was like, I don't think I want to live here. I'm used to like the chaos outside. You hear all the noises. You hear, people screaming and cars and all this stuff. I was in bed, first night in Bonita, terrified that I was going to die. And it was crazy because it just like flip-flop, like the complete opposite. So that was my introduction to Bonita. I didn't like it. The burritos, overpriced, undersized. I was like, what? Why would somebody pay $7 for a burrito when I could get one in the hood for like $4 or $5, bigger. So that was kind of like culture shock, huge culture shock. Like, I felt I was an outsider and I felt people were going to figure me out, so for many years, especially in the business world, now I'm a realtor, now I'm selling houses, now I'm dealing with people who grew up in Chula Vista and Bonita, and those places to me were fancy. And I was like, I can't tell them I'm from Logan, and I grew up in the hood, and they're going to look at me different. And for years, I just went along like, yeah, I grew up in Chula Vista, I grew up just east of downtown, like, I was having those type of conversations. And for years upon years, I just never said or admitted where I grew up or where I'm from, just because I felt we were different. So telling people that I grew up east of downtown, not telling them where I'm really from, I felt there's a stigma with growing up in the hood. I felt that if you grew up in the hood, maybe you're not honest. Maybe you're a thief. Maybe people are scared of you. people don't want to be affiliated with you. Because even as a kid, my grandpa would tell me, hey, you can't affiliate with these certain kids. So I felt, as an adult, they wouldn't want to affiliate with me because of my background. And I didn't want anyone to judge me or to think any differently of me when I first started in real estate. So in real estate, I learned right off the bat, it's like you have to be professional. People are entrusting you with their biggest asset, whether it's buying it or selling it. They're never going to see that type of money again when they sell their property. I knew how to show up sharp. I used to wear a suit, tie, nice shoes every day. And for a minute there, I started wearing a wedding ring too, just because I wanted people to trust me. And I figured, well, if I'm married and I have a family, they at least think, okay, this dude's legit, compared to, oh, you're just a kid that grew up in the hood and, you're trying to make a buck out here. Being in a professional setting, I liked it. I tried my best, and I did feel that it wasn't, that I didn't belong. I did feel that I didn't belong in a professional setting, and I just had to keep at it every day and just kind of keep to myself. There's never been, especially early on, I never shared anything about myself to my clients. It's just like, okay, we're going to get in here, we're going to do some business, and I'm not going to tell you really who I am or where I'm from, just because I don't want my client to think any differently or any less of me. Looking back the last 20 years, I always thought that real estate was my ticket out. What I didn't realize was that it wasn't the sales, the helping people buy and sell. That was the foundation. But what really just took me to the top was real estate investing. When I started buying real estate to hold, to renovate, and to rent out to other people, that's really what got me to where I'm at right now. I'm lucky to say that I have a real estate office with several realtors that I coach and mentor on a daily basis. I have a property management company where I help a lot of people manage their real estate, manage their tenants, their assets. And of course, I've always helped people buy real estate, sell real estate. And really, I've accomplished everything that I ever set out to accomplish in real estate. I know that I still have another 20 years to go, and a lot of good things will happen from that. Right now, I'm really excited about investing in real estate and having investments. Over the last several years, I accumulated a large amount of assets in real estate here in San Diego. For someone like me who doesn't have a formal education, real estate investing is the perfect outlet. It helped me accumulate a large amount of assets here in San Diego. Watching my really successful clients and what they do, which is own real estate, has me really excited for the future, because I know that I could double my portfolio every 7 years and I still have time left. So I'm excited about the future. I'm really happy how everything has turned out over the last 20 years, and I'm excited to see how the next 20 years are going to pan out. What people don't understand about real estate is that they think that it's quick money, it's big commission checks, etc. But the real money is in the long-term real estate holdings of buying property, holding it for a long time. Super boring, not that exciting, but over time it compounds into something beautiful that allows you to retire from your day job. I realized that real estate investing was the ticket out. Yeah, helping people buy and sell properties, that got me to where I wanted to be and what I would want for everyone. It's not about how much money you make on a yearly basis, which when I was younger, I thought that's what it was all about. It's actually what you do with that money, how you invest it, how you accumulate assets that over time change your life. And throughout that journey, all that hard work, all that dedication, that's really what changes one's character. You don't change who you are as a better person by just making more money in 1 year. That's not how it works. It's the accumulation of all those lessons, of all that work ethic, year over year over year, that makes you a better person, that defines who you are, and that ultimately sets you financially free. What does that do? Well, that allows me to help other people. Just like when you're on an airplane and the pilot always says, hey, in case of an emergency, give yourself oxygen first, and then your loved ones, your kids, etc. So in this life, what I realized was I had to give my oxygen to myself first, and then from there, I could give it to other people. So that's what I'm about right now, is just helping my community, helping my friends, family, loved ones, just do better. And I'm using all the lessons that I've learned in my life in order to help them achieve that too. 14 years ago, I started giving back to my community. I started volunteering basketball coaching. I just remember what I went through. I knew sports was a big part of it. So that's kind of how I started to give back to my community, supporting the basketball team, soccer team, softball team, helping a school that I went to and where kids similar to me are going there right now. Over the last couple of years, I started volunteering with the Logan Heights CDC, started giving a lot of my time and started giving money eventually to them too, just to, better the community. We all get older, we all accomplish things, and we have to give back. Yeah, you have to take care of your family first and foremost, but then after that, you got to give back to others. And I think that's why I'm put on this earth, and I think that's why everyone else was put on, to help other people. Just like Russell Simmons, I don't want to be a role model. However, if I could leave a legacy, which means to me, influencing how someone thinks, what they say, and what they do, that's pretty cool, because that's what my grandpa left for me. To this day, I make decisions and I say things and I do things based on his legacy. And 20 years later, I'm super grateful because my grandpa left me a legacy where now I love myself, I love my family, and I love my community. So in my 20th year, I'm doing this because I feel that it's important for my friends, family, and clients to really know me. A lot of my people I do business with know of me, know a little bit about me, but I think it's a big deal. Like, I'm super excited about being in the business this long, learning what I've learned since I was in high school. That's when I started. Whenever someone opens up to me, I think it's one of the biggest gifts that they could give me. Be vulnerable with me, let me know more about them. And that's what I'm trying to give my clients and my friends and my family, is I'm trying to just keep it 100, show you who I really am, what I'm about. And hopefully through that, we could grow our relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's, client broker type of deal. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned is relationships are key. Growing relationships on a daily basis, it's a lot of work. Just think about your relationship with your wife, your spouse, your significant other, your kids. It's a daily thing that you have to commit yourself to for the rest of your life. And when I first got into business, I didn't know that. I didn't know that relationships with people were the biggest thing in the world. And I realized that now, years into doing business and being a human being. And I want to grow my relationship with all my friends, my clients, my business associates, the kids that I teach, everyone. That to me is everything. That's a little bit about me. I'm Voltaire Lepe, and I'll see you later.
I'ma need safety. Tell her I can't snake me. Ray gun off safety. My girl so tasty. Tell her it's your